Here with Champ Bailey, All-American, the UGA, 12-time Pro Bowl cornerback, and most recently inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. What was that like for you, Champ, going up to Canton, Ohio, being with all those great Hall of Famers, and then joining them?
That was a moment to remember. You know, it's you grow up playing the game, you just love to play, and then all of a sudden it becomes your job, and then you just try to make the most out of it. I never really thought past my playing days. I just always wanted to be a good teammate, and make the most out of, what I was doing on the field. I had big dreams of being in the Hall of Fame because that's just how I set my goals. And, to actually get that gold jacket, man, it was so surreal. It still hasn't sunk in yet. I'm trying to get used to it, but the experience was amazing.
I want to talk to you about the experience because I've been there for that whole weekend, and the guys that you see, me being a big fan, just guys that I see, and you're a fan of football too,
Right.
Who kind of stuck out to you and kind of like, wow, I'm with this guy in this club?
Everybody. I think there wasn't one guy, and then Bob Greasy, but Bob
Greasy, yeah.
Yeah, Brian's dad.
Yeah.
He speaks to me and talks to me, and I've never had a conversation with him. Just to be able to say that I'm on the same team with a guy like that. And then Jim Brown, he's walking by, and I'm like, okay, do I say something or?
Yeah, you never know with Jim Brown, do you?
I didn't have my jacket at the time when I saw him, so I'm like, okay, do I say something? Okay. I did speak to him, but, it's all these guys are so welcoming. They all told me, you're going to be speechless, and it's hard to explain the moments, and I just took it all in.
Now, you're out of a small community, right? Charlton County. What was that like in high school, being recruited and knowing that you were going to, move on from there?
Well, growing up there, we always thought, sports was our way out of town, so to speak. That was always the motto we lived by, man. We got to get that ticket out of here. And, and the reason I say get out of here is because, there was this continuing cycle of, oppression in our hometown. For lack of a better term, that's just what it was. And, the lack of resources and things that we had at our disposal, we just knew the opportunities weren't going to be there. They weren't going to be abundant. And, playing sports was definitely a way that we had to get out. And I just happened to be very good at football and a few other sports. And football was my ticket, and I just made the most of it.
It's funny, you're from a small community. It's out in the country, isn't it?
Yes.
Because, you're Champ, you've got a brother named Boss.
Yeah.
My mother's from the country. I've got an Aunt Hootie.
Yeah,
so just talk to us about those nicknames, that people come up with.
And it's funny, we don't create our own nicknames. They just kind of come about. And, when I hear people creating their own nicknames, it's like, it's phony. You can't create your own nickname. And, a lot of people I grew up with, I only knew them by their nickname. I could go back home and have a lot of stories to tell with somebody and share with somebody, but I won't know their first name. That's just the way it was, and I appreciate that now more than ever.
I want to ask you about Deion Sanders. This was a guy because you grew up in Georgia, right. Hall of Fame weekend. What was it like being there with Deion, and how well do you know him?
Well, I played with him.
I was going to say you ended up being a teammate.
So
yeah.
I was fortunate enough to be on the team with him being a first ballot Hall of Famer and also Darryl Green. So just having that tutelage and learning and grabbing all those different insights of the game. I was a student, and those guys were the best to ever do it. And I was fortunate enough to be on the same team at the same time with these guys. No young player was ever put in a better position than I was.
What was it like going to the University of Georgia, being recruited at Georgia, and then going to Georgia, the big school in your home state?
Well, since I can remember, I was a Dog fan. And growing up in South Georgia, you come in contact with a lot of Gator fans. So that rivalry always meant something in my household and in my town. So, it was good to actually be a part of it and contribute, to a few of those wins, at least one anyway.
Right. Talk about the Georgia-Florida weekend. I know you've got something coming up there. Tell us what's happening there.
Yeah, we do this thing called the Players Reception, and, basically the concept is we want to get everybody in the same room. And who do I mean by everybody? A lot of alumni from both schools playing in the game. We did it last year at the Georgia-Florida game. We did it at the Notre Dame game. We had a lot of, I had some of my fellow Hall of Famers come out, Jerome Bettis, Tim Brown. Who am I missing? Allen Rossum came out. Who am I missing? There was a lot of guys. There was a lot of guys show up from both sides, and I think the whole point is to get them in the same room with some fans, some corporate partners and sponsors that we have come through, and just see if we could do business together. I think it's only, it makes sense for us to be in the same room, understanding what each other has going on, because the other side of the game is just as challenging as playing the game itself.
Now, how do you see this matchup? Because it's a top 10 matchup, close to it now, right? Yeah.
Well, let's get through this week,
Yeah.
injury-free, and let's see how it goes. But Florida's a different team now. I mean, I think with their coach, I knew it wouldn't take long for them to turn it around. I mean, they have a good mind, calling the shots there, and we do as well. And I'm looking forward to my Dogs doing what we do. We have a better team. We just got to play better.
Speaking of Kirby Smart, I mean, that's your teammate, right?
Yeah.
And you said you're a cornerback and he's a safety, so he always kind of probably ran things a little bit, right? So,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So you
Yeah.
kind of knew that he would be a coach, you said one time?
Absolutely. I mean, he was a coach on the field. I mean, and as a player, a young player I was when he was there, I mean, I needed that, and I loved it. I relished that. I mean, those were the things I wanted from my safety, and I didn't understand how important it was until I got in the league and I didn't have it. And it's like, okay, I don't have a Kirby, but I got somebody. I mean, I got to lean on somebody. And, my safeties finally came around to being what Kirby was for me in college. And, he was the guy that always got us lined up and made sure he yelled at us enough to make sure we did our job. And, now he's doing the same thing as a head coach. I mean, I'm proud of him.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think of him at the alma mater there doing the job that he's doing?
It's only fitting. I think, when you have a lifelong dog like Kirby, I mean, that's what you want calling the shots. And I'm just proud to say I, shared the locker room with him, and I could go back there and, give him a hard time when necessary and, help him in any way I can.
What was it like for you the first time you come from a small community, the first time you run out on a college field and that crowd, just the difference in the crowd noise? What was that like for you the first time?
It was a little overwhelming at first, because I was able to run out there without playing a whole lot. I played in my first game as a freshman, but I wasn't a starter. So I got used to it before I actually had to play a lot. But one thing about playing the game at a high level is you tend to block that out because at some point you got to focus on your job. And for me to be an All-American at Georgia, I had to be focused. And, that's what I did mostly. But, yeah, that first time was a little bit overwhelming.
Coach Donnan has told me, I mean, he let you play everything, didn't he?
Yeah,
I mean,
he did.
Talk about that because you played both ways. I know, did you plan on that coming to Georgia? Did he tell you that?
Absolutely, he did. That was definitely his recruiting pitch, and I never had to hold him to it. He stood by his word. He gave me every opportunity to fail. And I went out there and did everything I could to make sure I was doing my job and doing it well. And, when I returned kicks, I wanted to be the best at it. When I played receiver, I wanted to be the best corner as well. And that's just how I approach the game.
And you found a way to get out of spring football, too, didn't
Yeah,
you? Huh?
I didn't
Come
get out
on
of
now.
I got out of winter training. That's what I got out of.
Because you ran track at Georgia.
Because I
right?
ran track,
Tell us
yes.
about that.
Well, I'm happy I did it, and I'm a little upset I didn't go even further because I feel like I had a shot at the 2000 Olympics to actually go do the long jump.
Well, you were good. I mean, you held the indoor record, right, for the long
Yeah,
jump?
and I did all that without a lot of practice and preparation. I mean, I had some good coaches there, but I didn't utilize all the stuff that they were trying to teach
Right,
me.
exactly.
I was just being an athlete
Right.
and just being a good jumper. And, long jump didn't require a lot of practice, but, there's little things about the techniques that I should have learned and I should have pressed for it. But, I'm just glad I did go out and contribute that way.
I want to ask you about, because we see little kids, young kids, play one sport from the time they're really young.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you played multiple sports. How important was that to you to play multiple sports and kind of cross-train and have different teammates with different seasons, those kinds of things, going through high school and college?
Well, to be honest, Fred, I really didn't have a choice. My older brother, he kind of set the standard of what was expected, from an athlete in our town because we didn't have a lot of people to go around. So it wasn't like you played football and didn't play basketball. It was rare that people didn't play both or ran track. Everybody ran track. If you're an athlete, you run in track. So that's really what we had to deal with in my hometown. You had to play. So I love playing and I love competing, so it was a no-brainer for me.
When did you know that you'd be ready for the National Football League?
Maybe after my sophomore year at Georgia. I knew I had a shot because of my body type and, my speed and athletic ability. But, things can always happen. But I knew once I got done with my sophomore year, if I got through my junior year healthy, that, I had a good shot at being a first-round pick.
And a cornerback. I mean, did you realize how rare those guys are, good cornerbacks?
No.
I mean, when you were coming up, because, I mean, that, now, if you can play corner, man, you're on my team. Come on.
I
right?
didn't understand the impact. And I think, seeing Jalen Ramsey get traded for 2 first-round picks, now you can see how people value the cornerback position. And, you know, it's hard to find good ones in their prime. And, you know, when I was in my prime, I knew I was the best, but I still didn't understand how rare it was until I got older. And then I'm like, okay, guys still haven't come along and done what I've done. So, you know, to see guys really appreciate the position now, especially dollar-wise,
Right.
you know, it means a lot to me.
Well, you know, when you talk about cornerback, we hear the term playing on an island
Yeah.
because it's just you and the receiver out there with no help.
Yes.
I mean, what's that like? I mean, how did you make yourself good at that?
Well, you know, Darryl Green always had this saying that you can't make corners. They're kind of born that way, and at least the great ones. And I feel like that's just something that's always been instilled in me. It's not something you learn. It's confidence. You know, it's just your approach to the game, your mentality, short-term memory. I mean, bad things happen out there, and if you don't let them happen, nobody even know you showed up because your guy didn't catch the ball, and that's the way I liked it.
You know, you talked about Darryl Green and Deion Sanders. What was that like? What are some of your favorite memories of playing for the Redskins?
Well, just, you know, the old sayings they would have, you know, just the way they went about their business. I think when you think about a guy like Deion, I mean, he's a little flamboyant on game day, but during the week, he's a grinder. I mean, he's watching tape. He's practicing hard. His preparation was top-notch, and that's why he had the Hall of Fame career he had. Even though he was a great athlete, that's not why he became a Hall of Famer. It's because of his preparation.
Well, that's what, you know, when I see Deion, and I obviously, you know him from here and from baseball and everything, he talked a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
but, you know, he always did it with a smile, and he was always able to back it up.
Yeah, well, he talked a lot about himself. It was
He
more
did,
self-promotion
exactly.
and marketing.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate.
I mean, he never said anything bad about anybody.
Never, ever.
Uh-uh.
All, you know, fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I really didn't understand why he was so good until I was on the team with him, because I got to see how he approached the game and how he studied and how he practiced. I mean, he was a little older at the time, but he still had those same values and work ethic. And, you know, I took as much as I could from it.
Then going on to Denver, what was that like for you, you know, making the move?
I got to be honest, Fred, I didn't want to be traded. I mean,
Right.
I don't think any guy wants to be traded in the prime of their career from a team as storied as the Redskins. But at the time, I was never one of Dan Snyder's guys, and I understood that business side of it. He didn't draft me. He bought the team after I was drafted. So I never felt like I was part of the family. And, you know, it was only fitting that if they're not going to pay me, they send me somewhere else where somebody would. And, you know, it just worked out.
Speaking of being part of the family, you got to play with part of the family, right, for one season out
Yeah.
in Denver. What was that like?
Yeah, it was Boss playing with Boss this last year. I mean, it was great because I got to play with him at all three levels, high school, college, and now in the pros. And, you know, to see him come and, you know, contribute the way he did before he got hurt, I mean, it was a blessing because now our family could all come to one location and watch us both play.
You know, what was it like, though, for you, you know, some of your favorite memories of playing for the Broncos?
Well, just the chance to win every year. You know, I made a lot of good connections and friends and people in that community. In that organization, I mean, I still feel like a part of that family, even 6 years after I'm done. But it's just that chance to win. I mean, one thing about that place, you know, Pat Bowlen ran it like it was a top-notch business, and he treated every player like they were the most important people on the staff. I mean, that's the way he carried that organization, first class all the way. And that's what I remember, just always having a chance to win because the culture was so good.
You know, it wasn't the outcome that you wanted, but you got to play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was good. You know, I think it wasn't good for maybe 2 years after that. I was a little down about that, you know, not being able to win one. But as I reflect now and had some time to let it sink in, I mean, I'm just glad I had an opportunity. And, you know, a lot of guys don't get an opportunity to play at that level, but I got an opportunity to play at that level for 15 years and playing a Super Bowl in my last game. I mean, I couldn't ask for much more.
You know, we talked about being, you know, going into the Hall of Fame and what it was like being there. What was it like getting that phone call? You know, when that phone rang, was Dave Baker right on the other end?
That's the thing. It's not the phone call you want. The phone call actually lets you know that you're not in.
I got you.
And it's the knock on the door that lets
That's
you
right,
in.
yeah.
And people kept calling me, you know, and I'm like, I'm not waiting on the phone call. I'm waiting on the knock at the door, but I had to answer the phone because it could have been anybody. You know, a lot of people calling me, reporters.
Yeah, tell us about that process, you know, because you go to a room, right? Tell us about that. I mean, walk us through that.
It's funny because they want the drama, right?
Right, of course.
So the drama of you being in your room for 2 hours before you know anything, and anything can happen. Your phone ring, somebody could knock on, like, room service knocked on the door one time. I mean, you can't control that stuff.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like, it's nerve-wracking.
You're hungry.
Yes, I'm hungry for it. Just give me the information right now. So it was really nerve-wracking, to say the least. And, I'm happy for the process, but it sucks for the guys who get that call. All these guys that I look up to, respect. I think John Lynch has been in that process 6 times. I feel for those guys.
But it is cool. And how did it feel, though, to put that gold jacket on for the first time?
It felt great. I started my career, with Jack Rial representing me as my agent, and he put that jacket on me for the first time. And I mean, it just felt like everything came full circle. 20 years later, I'm putting this jacket on. It's an unbelievable ride.
When I spoke to you before you went into the Hall of Fame, you talked about race relations really at length. Why was that so important for you to talk about in your speech?
Well, I talked about a little where I grew up, and you still see the struggle there, with how black men are viewed, and you see it more now than when I grew up because of social media and different media outlets being able to capture a lot. Everybody has a camera now, so you see it more prevalent. So I don't get many chances to be on a platform like that to be able to speak on my experiences, and I wanted to make sure I came off in a way where everybody can understand and just really plainly and simply listen. I think if all my friends would listen, all my family would listen, then maybe they would all do it for my brothers as well. So, it's that simple, just a simple message. But I think it's only fitting that, a guy like me in my position, when he has an opportunity, you got to say something.
I was going to say, you feel like you carry the mantle, then you kind of are holding that threshold, or holding the mantle actually for other folks that don't have the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we don't get opportunities to have that many people viewing you and looking at you. That platform is powerful. So how you use it, I mean, it comes with a lot of responsibility. And I felt like I was compelled to say something. And, it came from the heart. I mean, it was real.
Yeah.
I can't be any more real than I was.
You're also enshrined into the Broncos Ring of Honor. So
Yeah.
how cool was that to go back for that?
The Ring of Fame was unbelievable because I was able to get my Hall of Fame ring at the same time. So, having Pat Bowlen get his ring and then having my name unveiled in that stadium, I mean, it meant a lot because, them having faith in me, bringing me to Denver in 2004, it was only fitting that all that happened there in front of all those fans, all those people that made my job easy.
What are you most proud of looking back on your career? Is there anything that kind of sticks out to you?
Well, definitely that Hall of Fame jacket means a lot, but I think the relationships that I built, it means so much, because, I really realize now, what the league was all about. I mean, it gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of great people, build a lot of great friendships, and I'm seeing how fortunate I am to have those. And now I can reach back and we can all do things together on the other side of the game. I mean, I'm fortunate, man. I'm really blessed, and I got that jacket, and I know a lot of guys out there fighting for it, and I don't take it for granted.
And really your teammates, really, isn't it? When you look back from probably Pee Wee all the way up to the NFL and to even that Hall of Fame. Now your teammates with the Hall of Fame guys, just all your teammates. Just talk about how special it is to have teammates, throughout your life and all your life, really teammates for life.
Yeah, it means a lot, and even going back to my hometown, seeing a lot of my teammates there, it never ends. You always remember those moments. I mean, there's no greater family that I've had other than my blood family than being in a locker room with a bunch of guys fighting for the same thing. I mean, those bonds are unbreakable.
In high school football in Georgia, I think a lot of people, look at Georgia and Florida as 2 states that really enjoy and play high school football. Right. Just talk about Friday nights and how important that was for your community and you personally.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up. I went to a Riverwood High School game the other night, and one of my old teammates is a head coach at Riverwood High School, Robert Edwards.
Yeah.
And, he's undefeated now, so I'm really happy for him, rooting him on. But what I feel when I walk in those stadiums is like these kids have no idea. Like they're on the greatest team in the greatest group of network that they'll ever be in. And if you don't play next year, you probably can never duplicate that again in your life if you don't play a game like this. It's unbelievable to be in the locker room. And to be on that field and see those kids out there just fighting for their lives on a Friday night, it took me back to being home and, those Friday nights I had back in Folkestone.
You know, football is getting a bad rep, you know, because of concussions, because of different things. But I don't know if there's another sport where you can get as many teammates together and be together for as long as, like you said, from high school on up. Do you think? I mean, that's the
football,
kind of, that's what the sport is, like teammates for life, you know,
right,
is kind of a saying, right?
And I think that's what, you know, it makes football so great. It is a violent sport. I can't shy away from that.
Right.
But one thing I do like is it's gotten a lot better and a lot safer. That has happened. And I love the way, you know, at least the NFL, and it kind of trickles down from there, they're trying to evolve. I don't think anything should stay the same. You have to evolve. As you learn things about the brain, you have to evolve. And I love that about the game. And like I said, it trickles down. So I'm encouraging more people to play because I see the change. And I understand it, the way they tell kids to tackle, how they're protecting players from headshots. That wasn't happening when I played as a kid. And that's why I'm always promoting the game the way I do, because there's so many good things about it, and it's a lot safer now.
Anything else you'd like to say or add?
Well, you know, I definitely want everybody that's definitely going to be in Jacksonville, to try to come to the Players Reception. I mean, you can buy tickets at playersreception.com. I mean, all the info's there. You'll see what we've done in the past. You'll see who's going to be there. I'm hosting this year with Danny Werfel.
Oh, yeah.
Who's a Heisman Trophy at Florida. So I know he'll bring a lot of his Florida guys. So, you know, it's a good place for us to get together, brag, network a little bit, and, you know, talk about the old days.
You know, that Georgia-Florida thing, you know, it was Steve Spurrier on the other side. I mean, that was always interesting, wasn't it? And
yeah.
I think, you know, Coach Donnan, I think, might have been one of the guys that beat Spurrier, right?
Yes.
You did.
We did in 97.
Right.
You know, I think they had beaten us 10, 12 years straight.
Right.
You know, it was a bad run. I mean, I don't think any game was close during that time, but they had our number. And Coach Donnan, he had a plan for them, and we got us a big W in 97.
Hey, Champ, thanks so much, man. We
Thanks,
appreciate
Fred.
it.
Always
All right.
good.